Hey, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Living on Music. I'm Steve Houk, and it is great to see everybody out there as July goes into full bloom. It's been a warm week or so for sure, feeling summery, and I'm sure everybody's getting out and enjoying themselves finally, and no matter what the temperature is. And that includes live music and the like. Behind me, speaking of live music, you see the stage at the Rose in Pasadena, California, and it is a wonderful venue that was going on for many years. And right now we're trying to figure out whether it's closed or not. There's been some notes online that say there's a possibility, and that would be very, very indicative of what's going on. But that aside, it's an amazing venue in the past and hopefully in the future. Bands like Los Lobos, the Wailers, others we can go on, and the Mustangs played there. And the Mustangs are the band from my guest tonight, Holly Montgomery. And that is only one aspect of this lady's musical life. It is an incredible ride we're going to take with Holly tonight. I can't wait. Again, I've had two of the Honey Larks on, Carly and Jenny, and now it's all complete with Holly. And we're going to really go down not only her past and present, but her future and what's going to be coming up. But I can't wait to have Holly on, and we'll talk about the Rose in Pasadena as well. Just real quick plug for a wonderful show tomorrow on Wednesday night here on ZTV. We'll talk to the founders of the Yellow Door concert series, Vaughn and Robin Ambrose. And you might know that if you live in Old Town or in Alexandria. There's a wonderful, predominantly jazz concerts at the Alexandria Free Methodist Church. And Alexandria is going to talk to her, to Vaughn and Robin about, how they came about the Yellow Door concert series and what they have going on for the present and the future and that as well. So that's going to be a fun, another music related show. We got to love it here on ZTV on Wednesday night at 7. Look for the invites or go to the ZTV page or the Zebra page and look for the invites there as well. Real quick, Living on Music page. Up over 520 members. It's great to see so many new friends, old friends joining our Living on Music Nation. Thanks so much. And we will keep this rocking as we go along. Also, just as a plug, and if you love music, go to my Living on Music website. I've done dozens and dozens of interviews and articles that are posted on the site. Haven't done any in a little while because I've been focusing on Living on Music and my online kind of television more show, but there are some great interviews that I think you'd really love. If you go to the genres and you search down, and you can put in any genre or anybody's name that you like, they could pop up. I've had some incredible people on the show. And speaking of that, I've got somebody coming up. Here's a little breaking news. I let it out last week, and we're finally ready to book. We're all booked. But Willie Nile will be joining me on Living on Music. Willie and I go back a ways. I've interviewed him twice before. We've hung out backstage at the Barns, and then at Jam and Java with my dear college roommate and one of Willie's buddies, Jim Cox. And we hung out with Willie backstage there, talked a lot. He's a sweet guy, and what a rock and roller at heart. I mean, one of the great American kind of down to earth rock and rollers. And I am so excited to have him on. It's going to air sometime in August, and we'll get you the details as we come along. But yes, go to the Living on Music page on Facebook, join the family, and learn all about all the different kinds of music that comes through that page, as well as who's coming up on Living on Music. So during these last 15 months of Living on Music, during which I've had close to 65 absolutely incredible guests on this show, I've been continually moved and impressed and awed by the Herculean efforts of largely all of the musicians I have had on, and music people as well, amidst all the challenges and the roadblocks and the like, to keep things going, to keep things moving along, to stay creative and keep active and engaged, and well, keep living on music and working and existing as a musician during easily the most challenging period of their careers, bar none. As a 15-year plus year lead singer and musician, I know my sanity was saved by being able to play acoustic music with my partner Suzanne as the Greek and the Freak. Since last spring, we've done close to 20 shows, both virtual and in the pipe stem here. And now we're still gigging, and breaking news, we'll be playing the wonderful Epicure Cafe on Sunday, August 22nd. But it's those kinds of rescues, that kind of fortitude, that kind of ambition and determination to keep things going that has really saved so many of the musicians, not only that I've had on my show, but across the country and across the world. And my fabulous guest tonight, Holly Montgomery, is certainly no exception. Not only is Holly somewhat thrived during this pandemic, she's used her own inner self to be positive and work through this and actually enjoy part of the downtime, but has been also living and breathing her own music and maintaining her musical hemisphere by playing when she can with mainstay band members like Andy Hamburger and Buddy Spear. And but during this last year, she even co-formed what has turned out to be a fantastic trio called the Honey Larks with two of her longtime friends who have also been on Living on Music. And along with Holly are some of the most talented and spectacularly vibrant musicians this region has in its core, Carly, Harvey, and Jenny Langer. I mean, they are something else. Of course, they all have their own individual projects as well, but it was another way for these musicians, like so many, to stimulate their senses, invigorate their musical souls during a time when they most needed it. As for Ms. Montgomery, well, tonight is going to be a very special Living on Music ride as we take a journey down her amazing life and career from her early days in Louisville, her burgeoning musical path out in LA, coming across the country to DC and finding a truly welcoming and vibrant musical environment, which has clearly furthered her musical career. Enough rambling by me. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to have, yes, the third Honey Lark on Living on Music, but also a fantastic musician and lady in her own right. Please welcome Holly Montgomery. Holly Montgomery, I cannot tell you how happy it is that you're on Living on Music. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, I think. Thank you so much for having me.
No, I'm telling you the way, and you know this as good as anybody. The DC musical community is spectacular, not only for its talent, but the interwoven collaboration of people. So I know you knew Carly and Jenny a long time ago. But when Jenny came on and I was so excited, she's like, yeah, and I knew your name. And she's like, well, Holly. So I researched, and I'm telling you, this musical ride could surpass all 65 guests of mine or come close. It's going to be a great ride.
I'll try to entertain.
No, I think we'll have a blast. And basically, this is a question or something I don't feel like asking every show, but I've had to. And it's important because musicians have been so deeply affected by what's going on. And you've made some wonderful strides. You've joined your trio, the Honey Larks. You've done some other stuff getting ready for your record, which I know was underway for a while. How have you been doing this last year as a musician and as a human being?
Oh, wow. Well, it's a loaded question. There's a lot of ups and downs, but for me personally, I know that it's probably not the most popular thing to say, but I enjoyed so much of the pandemic and having the downtime. I would never have given myself downtime ever.
There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people on this show have said they've been able to actually thrive in their personal self as well as musically. So that's really it's wonderful to hear, actually.
it was for me, it was a real gift. I mean, other than the financial devastation,
yeah,
it was a real gift. It was like just being able to be still in my own thoughts and not having to go like look at okay, what am I doing tomorrow? Okay, what do I have to prepare for 2 days from now? Okay, what do I have a guitarist on the gig 3 days from now? It's like all of these things that went out and by the way have taken me a little bit of a adjusting to get back into.
Right.
You know?
No, absolutely. Again, going into this thing, things seem to be clicking along damn well for Holly Montgomery. This was pre Honey Larks, so that little addition of love and music, it wasn't even done going into the. You didn't have that band beginning,
No.
but you were churning along. You had a record kind of churning forward, ready to release at some point. How did that feel? You know, going in, I think things were going well, and again, coming out probably will be.
Well, you know, probably the worst part about the pandemic was that, you know, a couple of years of hard work that we had done with Mustangs of the West
Yes.
and with our label Blue Alon Records,
Yes,
kind of got, you know, that was the worst part. I mean, we were supposed to, you know, 10 days after the pandemic officially started and things shut down, we were supposed to be playing at South by Southwest with Soul Asylum,
really,
and some other
oh, that's
with other people from our label. And I'd been in LA, we were rehearsing for it, and the band was sounding great, and we were all good to go up for a tour after that, you know.
That's intense. You're not the only one that I had this a couple of people that missed South by Southwest on the show, and
yeah,
Soul Asylum's one of my favorite bands. I'm glad they were back playing.
Yeah, they're on Blue Alon Records.
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah. You know, just, you know, Runaway Train, etc. is fantastic. What we're going to do is, before we delve into the world of Holly Montgomery's life, not too deep, but we'll have some fun. We're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to show some people some of the different kinds of music that you either had going in or that you filled in during the pandemic. You just talked about Mustangs of the West. There's a great video of you guys, highly produced in a studio. That must have been fun as hell. I think it was right. It was about a year or two before, but it shows the level of where you guys were at that time. We'll be talking about the evolution of the Mustangs, because that's, I know, one of your, you know, really wonderful experiences in your musical life. But leading into 2020, the Mustangs of the West were churning along. Here's a little bit of How Blue. Yeah, Holly, the Mustangs of the West, that, I don't know, you guys seem like you were in sync and ready, and hopefully, again, popping out of this, we can talk a little bit about the past, present, and future of the Mustangs coming up. Speaking of the collaborative nature of you and so many of your musical friends and pals in this region, here is a clip, I believe, from not long ago with Moonshine Society.
Really?
Yes. See, this is like, it's like This Is Your Life back, in the old days when it's like, you don't know who's coming walking in right now. No, you guys were outside at a recent gig, and
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
you do the reason I loved it, and it's about a
Little
minute.
bass solo there.
It's about a minute long, but this is the bass solo. This shows the collaborative nature of the musicians in this region, including Jenny, who I love, and Moonshine, with a little Chain of Fools.
I was like pretty happy with that solo. I mean, I had to be pretty conservative about it because I was like, I didn't want to like go to nowhere, okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, well, I love the drummer. The drummer.
Oh yeah, Rodney.
Rodney. Yeah. He looks over at you when you're doing the background vocals with this smile, and I'm thinking, everybody's just not only loves each other in bands, but loves being back out and playing. Yeah, there's Jenny Langer. She's one in a million, and you guys just fit. You're glued together when you're playing, and I don't know. I couldn't.
Yeah, she stuck with me.
Couldn't get away without showing that. And Holly, again, a thing that happened that's wonderful and positive and fabulous. That I don't know how much it was in the planning before the pandemic, was you joining two of your best musical and personal pals, Carly Harvey and Jenny Langer, and the Honey Larks. Now, I finally got to see you guys live at the Cancer Can Rock benefit. And, amidst coming out of the rain and everything, it was fabulous to see you guys, the harmonies, the talent. Was that something that was even being thought of prior to the pandemic, or you guys just jumped in?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Absolutely not. So, and we joke about it a lot in the Honey Lark stuff is that we are three women who have our own bands and our own vision for our own styles of music, who are friends and support each other and all of that. And we would never have made time for anything like the Honey Larks had the pandemic not happened.
Oh,
I mean, it happened because Jenny had a live stream gig booked for her band that they couldn't make.
Oh, that's right.
And so she asked Carly to do it with her. And then they were like, you know what? We could really use, somebody playing an instrument. Let's get Holly. Let's do a trio. And the first thing that we did, I mean, we didn't have a name yet or anything. We were going to do the, fulfill this date that Jenny had. And instead we were like,
oh,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, we started thinking up band names and stuff, but, and then we just started working out arrangements. I mean, the thing that's great about the Honey Larks that I hope that we can, now that the world is crazy again, that we can keep going on a consistent basis, is that it's great to be in a band where you have people sing strong background vocals, but with the Honey Larks, we're all lead vocalists.
Right.
So it's like, when things come out, it's like, wow,
right.
Instead of the
but it also blends the three voices beautifully, like it did. I'm telling you, I was stunned, not surprised. I was loving that, to hear you guys play. Well, here is just a little touch for you guys of something that it was a positive piece of the last year. And here's a little taste of the Honey Larks.
Sounds good.
But now nothing but the water is gonna bring my soul to bear. Struck my hand at the Bible. Struck my hand at prayer. But now nothing but the water is gonna bring my soul to
Grace Potter writing 6 songs. Yeah.
Yeah, that selfie I took of you, the three of you and me, and under that tent is still one of the greatest pictures of my.
Yeah, it really was a good picture. When I saw it, I went, oh.
Well, selfies are such a nightmare, and I usually look like I have turkey or ham hanging from it, and I love
turkey neck thing happening.
But you could see all of the smiles, and I think that's why I love that. Is everybody was like, "Oh my God, we're all hanging out, and everybody's hanging out," and I love that. But the Honey Larks, I hope to have the three of you on maybe in the future together, and then maybe we could do another individual show. Let's jump back a little bit and see how Holly Montgomery got to where she is. And this is a wonderful, wonderful ride. I'm telling you, and this is the 65th or 6th guest I've had, and we've taken journeys like this on every show largely. And I just love how everything seemed to flow for you. And there were moments. You're born in Kentucky, in London, Kentucky, and moved to Louisville. Did you ever go to the Kentucky Derby?
No.
Didn't miss that.
I grew up pretty close to it, but I never went. I mean, I left Louisville when I was 18.
Right.
So,
right.
So up until that point, I mean, I had friends that went, but it's
right. That's funny. That's great. But Louisville was where you were. Music seemed to be something that was already immersed in you because of your mother and your stepdad performing.
Right. And my father too.
And your father.
Although he died when I was very young, but the idea of that was always a constant.
Right.
But in our family, we just it was an interesting family. It was a lot of yours, mine, and ours and stuff, and because there were multiple divorces and remarriages and steps and halves and wholes and weird kind of sibling relationships there.
Right.
But it's one of the great mysteries of the universe that we all get along really well.
That's great.
Like even to this day, all the steps and halves and wholes get along really well.
Wow.
And growing up, music was always a thing because of that. It was like no matter how stressful the house was or whatever, we could always go, okay, here's some family songs to sing. I mean, even now when my siblings get together, I can pull out a guitar and start playing something, and everybody has their part. Like, you haven't lived till you've seen our family do Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh my God, what a perfect thing to do.
And we don't have to talk. We know who gets what part,
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh God, sweet transvestite. Yeah, that thing is insane. I'd love to see that sometime. You should probably shoot something with that. Who knows? They performed in clubs. What kind of music was being performed by your parents and your stepdad? In their different.
My mother and my stepfather did a lot of just like bar stuff, like and they both played the gut bucket. If you know what a gut bucket is.
Yeah, I do. Oh my God.
I think both of them, but for sure my stepfather was a gut bucket champion.
Oh.
So they would go, and they had a piano player named Cal Everett, I think was his last name, who was the piano player that accompanied them. And I mean, my mother was basic, and my mother played guitar as well. But I think they did mostly. My mother loved to sing country, so she was a big Patti Page fan, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So they would do things like Help Me Make It Through the Night, and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's fabulous. When did you start your early musical kind of involvement? Were you singing along with them at home? And then we're talking pre-Dorothy Boy appearance, between young and 13, 14, when did the music jump into yourself?
Oh, people ask me that, and honestly, I don't remember ever it not being like that. I mean, I would climb up on the piano bench and try and play, and I don't remember it ever not being that way. It was never like I'm going to be a musician. It was more like, oh, I mean, listen to this, the the engine on that truck is like a perfect fifth, and I'm listening to it and going, you know, I go, oh, okay. And I just always viewed the world that way. So to me, it wasn't a decision. It was just what you did.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the heart and soul. It's not like a decision. You came into your teens. Was Dorothy Boy your first involvement in any kind of band?
You know, it's interesting because Dorothy Boy was definitely the catalyst that catapulted me into getting the bug, you know, and all that, because it was a great band.
Hard,
you know,
hard prog rock too. Wow.
Hard prog rock. It was a metal prog rock band. It was my brother Bucky's brainchild, and you know, he let me tag along. So, you know, I played keyboards in that band, and yeah. So
that's fabulous. In fact,
I mean, he showed me every single note to play, but you know, I did it.
Beheld an elfin son, conceived of rape and woe, raised him in a world of shame, beneath the forest floor. He grew in might and to its set out on his own, with magic and an evil string. He stalked the night alone.
But at the same time, about the same time when I was 14, maybe 15, I started doing bar gigs. I started playing in a local band,
right?
You know, that played at things like, you know, the Moose Lodges. I played so many Moose Lodges before I turned 16.
Oh my gosh!
You know, I mean, I did all of it, and they gave, you know, that's where I learned what mixed drinks were. You know,
wow.
What's that?
Well, you weren't too far. Your drinking age was 18. I in that era, wasn't it? Wasn't 20?
Might have been.
Yeah,
right.
21 was later, so you were close enough. But that after you played trombone, and that's amazing. I don't think I knew that when I began my research on you. Why am I not surprised that there's some other element of Holly? But trombone, if you picked up a trombone now, would you be comfortable with it after playing it all those years?
No, I mean, that's one thing about brass instruments. If you don't play it for a week, it feels bad, you know, much less.
But that's amazing. That had to be incredible. You went on a trombone scholarship to college. I mean, what? And that's Morehead State, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so the trombone came to you. How did that become a thing? Because that's.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. I started doing it in elementary school because I recognized when I met band people and met the band nerds and the band geeks, I was like, yes, my people. And and I went to the band director like after school had started and was like, can I be in the band? Can I be in the band? And he was like, well, the only open position is trombone. I was like, what?
Wow.
So I got into elementary school band, which I don't even know if they have anymore, which is really sad. But I got into elementary school band playing trombone. And then, you know, then when I got to middle school and high school, I was perpetually trying to go, can I do something else in band? You know, can I, you know, and, you know, it's like, oh no, you play trombone. We need trombone players, you know? So I ended up like kind of getting stuck with it in a way.
Right. But
I, you know, I found my way in that. I ended up, interestingly enough, really loving bass trombone.
There you go.
You know, so I played bass trombone pretty much. That was my thing.
Not surprised, Holly.
I wanted to be at the end of the trombone section.
Right. You want to be on the deep end, and then then you also discovered the bass itself. Exactly. Around there, right? And that must have been an incredible thing because look at it now. It's part of your being. And you moved to Nashville not long after that, which did that have any musical ramifications when you were there, or was it more of just a relocation?
Well, I mean, I knew at that point that I needed to get out of Kentucky if I wanted to play music for a living. And at that point, you know, I really didn't know what that meant. What does it even mean to play music for a living? Like,
Yeah.
I thought that the only way to play music for a living is if you got rich and famous.
Right.
That was what I thought, you know, coming out of Kentucky, because I'd never seen anybody do anything else, you know,
Yeah.
like, and so I heard about this school in Nashville, Belmont. And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, and I just started playing electric bass, like, you know, at my last month of high school.
Sure.
So, and I was really bad, of course, because you are when you've only been playing 2 months.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, you know, going, okay, Belmont lets you play electric bass and I won't have to play trombone.
Right.
You know? And so I left Moorhead I left without graduating because
Right.
I just could not, I wasn't putting in the time practicing trombone, and it was really getting depressing.
Wow.
You know? And it's not, please, trombone players, don't throw anything at me. It's not part, I just wanted to sing and play. It's hard
Sure.
to play.
Well, I'm playing at the Epicure in Fairfax with Suzanne, the Greek and the Freak duo gig in August. We just got booked. Very, very exciting. Since we formed this during the pandemic and didn't expect it at all.
Fantastic.
And a trombone quartet is opening up for us.
See, I love it. And I'm really, really glad to know like brass sections and how they work and, you know, all that. I'm really glad to know that information, you know,
Oh,
like
completely.
on a practical level, because I played in a million all-state bands and all-state jazz bands and
Sure.
all-state, you know, I did all
Wow.
of that stuff all through high school on trombone and
Oh.
symphony bands and orchestras. And I've done all of that on trombone. So I'm glad to have that experience, but it was really, I was like, man, I don't want to play trombone for a living. I'm not listening to trombone music at home. I'm listening to, you know, Queen and
Right.
Zappa.
Well, I can't see you without a bass in your hand, so it's a given. Yeah, it's Holly bass, including everything else you do. A big move for you in your life that has carried even to today is moving to Los Angeles because of your connections that you made there. I know you go back and forth, and we've talked, and you've been like, don't know if I can do that recording because I might be going to LA. And then I'm like, really? And then I looked at your history and went, oh, well, that's because she's doing the amazing balance. You moved to LA in the mid to late 80s. You attended the Musicians Institute. It seems like you completed some electric bass and vocal kind of programs, seminars. I don't know what were those that kind of upped your game.
Yeah, you know, so I mean, Musicians Institute was a game changer for me because
wow.
It's such a great program. I mean, I'm hoping that it still works relatively the same way, because what you do is, you know, you come from wherever you are in the world, and they dump you in the middle of Hollywood, California, where I slept in my truck for a while, but that's a
Wow.
different story. And so you're there in Hollywood, California, and you walk into Musicians Institute, and whatever you thought about where you were, your level as a musician is gone like within the first hour, because you walk in and you're like, oh, this dude from Sweden wipes the floor with me.
Whoa.
You know, and this guy from, you know, Japan is like, and you're like, oh, I got to practice.
Oh.
So it was open 24 hours a day at that time. I don't know if it still is, but it was
Right.
open for 24 hours. So it was a constant, never ending cycle of, there's a practice room with all the back lines set up. Hey, you want to jam for a while? And you'd go in there and play for a few hours and then go to this class. And, you know, I met and took lessons from a lot of famous people there.
Sure, I bet.
You know, for whatever that's worth, you know, but it was just the immersion of 1 year of learning, you know, of sponging and soaking up. And, you know, a lot of friendships that I made there are lifelong friendships that I'm still actively friends with people from that.
It seems so. I mean, and you started gigging 5 nights a week in LA. That's not a bad deal. I mean, at the beginning, the burgeoning career that you're doing, the Vegas Laughlin casino circuit. I mean, wow. And you met Suzanne Morissette, who we'll talk
Exactly.
about as we go, because she just joined the Mustangs, which is probably an incredible thing later in life to do.
Yeah.
You started working for Michael Tobias, whose name I know very well, legendary, bass maker. You worked for him. So there, you're like immersing yourself in the structure and the molds of the bass, rather, as well as what you can do with it. No wonder you're so damn good. So, I mean,
You're very kind. Thank you.
Michael Tobias. I mean, that had to be another moment.
Yeah, I mean, when I started to work for him, I really had not given one moment's thought to how an instrument got put together, what it was made out of, I never gave it, I had not given it one single thought. So for the next almost 4 years, I worked with Mike when his shop was in Hollywood and through the first part of when it got bought by Gibson. So I was still working for him whenever that happened.
Not a bad buyer. Wow.
So, so every day it was me and Mike and Bob Lee and, and a couple of people in the shop that we were there and in and out the doors, every single famous bass player you can think of was in there, like trying them out, whether they ended up buying one or not. So I met a million bass players that way. Again, a bunch of them who I still know and was in touch with. And, Mike and I have remained friends all these years. We still keep in touch pretty regularly.
Perfect. Yeah, that seemed to be, I don't know, there's like these intersecting moments of Holly Montgomery that
it's weird to me.
It seemed to build the amazing thing that you've become. In the 90s, started kicking it a little bit. You joined Big Planet, which had Bill Whitaker and Suzanne Morissette, we just mentioned, and who joined. And they were, that sounds like a neat, and again, there was a Prague singer-songwriter, heavy, another Prague. Kind of like your brother's band, except up here.
Yeah, well, Big Planet, it was definitely a prog. I would call it prog, but it was acoustic prog. Like when people would ask what the style of music was, we'd say it's heavy wood.
Right, that's what I saw, and I was going to ask that next. I'm like, heavy wood. Oh, now I get it. What I find also interesting is this prog mentioned now a couple of times. You played in 1991 along with being on an Ice Cube record, which that had to be a blast. And no England Dan, but you had John Ford Coley.
Right. I had to do it with John Ford Coley for a while.
I really want to see it tonight. It was an epic part of my life. I'm 60, and I was like, yep, that guy was big way back in the day. And boy, he was wonderful. You recorded though. And I need to ask a little bit about this. I've interviewed him twice. A huge Yes fan. I've interviewed Rick Wakeman as well. And John is a wonderful man. What happened with that? How did that happen?
By the way, who's also on Blue Alon Records right now, so that's kind of cool. What
a roster.
Yeah. So, it was just one of those kismet things that happened. Suzanne and I were playing in this 4-piece band that did the casino circuits. And we were in Big Bear and doing this. It was one of the regular clubs on our little thing.
Right.
And we're looking out. It's me and Suzanne and Angela Riggio and Janie Thorson. And we look out in the audience. And of course, me, you know about Dorothy Boy now. I mean, Dorothy Boy is like got yes all over it, God. Yes and all that stuff. So I look out and I'm like, that's John Anderson.
Oh my God, that is insane.
And so we played our little set, and we had this really cool. We did Papa Was a Rolling Stone, but we did the Was Not Was version. So we had, it was really cool. It was very the 4-part stacked harmonies and sequencing and stuff. It was a really cool rendition. And so when he heard that, he came up to the band and said, I have a studio here at my cabin. Can you guys come and sing on my record? He was doing a record. I think I might be wrong about this. So if Suzanne is watching this, then she can correct me, or Angela or Janie. It was like a record he was releasing only in Venezuela or something.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like John.
Yeah, it was something like that. And so he had us sing background vocals on that. And we went out of his house and he made us pasta. It was great.
Oh, you're kidding. Yeah, that's incredible. Were you a big Yes fan back in the day as they evolved?
From when I was a kid.
Well,
you know, and huge Chris Squire fan. I mean, I love Chris Squire's playing. He doesn't play anything like me, you know, he plays that rocker sound and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But, you know, there's no denying his prowess, you know, in his lines. He just has great lines, you know.
Yeah, he completely does. I interviewed Greg Lake not long ago before he passed away. And he told me that he lived with Chris Squire as roommates.
Wow.
Can you imagine the bass going on in that place? And
by the way, I met at Tobias's shop a number of times.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm gonna we'll talk about this after the show, but I asked John Anderson what his favorite Yes song was, and he told me, and we'll bring that up at the end for the viewers. And it's probably one of my top 3. You had these amazing like little links with some of these big names too as you were churning through. You formed a duo with Dan Byrne. Now, Dan Byrne, for those of you who might not know, if you know anything about folk and things like that, I had Tom Rush on the show about 2-3 months ago, which was a massive thrill. Dan Byrne, an amazing folk legend guy. How did that happen? We're going to play a clip of something you did together, which I love. Your vocals are so beautiful, and I want to give everybody a little piece of Holly as we go through. But how did you meet Dan?
Well, I met Dan because Dan was on the same circuit as Big Planet.
Oh.
So we ended up being on a lot of co-bills, and you know, it was a good fit between our weirdo acoustic band and his weirdo acoustic folk, whatever, you know. So we met from that, and then when Big Planet broke up, which I don't want to talk about because I'm still in agony over that.
Wow. When
Big Planet broke up, Dan put the duo together, and he said, "Hey, do you want to do some gigs?" And so we ended up doing like a whole, you know, I don't even, it's hard to, time goes by, but we did a lot, you know, we did a lot, you know. I still have what's called the pink tape that we did. We did a whole album's worth of stuff. I don't think he ever released it, but
I love that.
We did a pink tape and a blue tape, but you know, we did a lot together, and it was a really great moment of, you know, we were young and we were in LA and we were trying to figure out like how we were going to navigate the music business, and you know, it was really, really monumental to me to spend that time with him, to watch the way that he approached songwriting, because I'd never thought about it the way that he did, you know. And somewhere here he would sit in cafes and just write songs on the cocktail napkins as we were sitting there, and so I snatched a bunch of those. I have them somewhere. I think I do anyway. But that process of watching him write was a major impact on me. And basically what he taught me to do was to never be lazy in your lyrics. You know, don't go with the easy rhyme unless it's the best rhyme.
Yep.
You know, don't, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things that I really, you know, that I really learned from him in terms of how to never settle for less than what you consider excellence in your lyric writing.
Oh, that's beautiful. Another experience that lifted your game. I love that, guys. And I love this because this is a little minute snippet of Holly and Dan Byrne, and it's via Smithsonian Folkways. Now, anybody that's in Smithsonian Folkways involvement is top notch in my book in terms of their status in the genre they're in. Here's a little bit of Holly and Dan Byrne's "Live Another Day."
Times I think I'll melt away, and in the sidewalk cracks I'll stay. And who will notice? Who will call? If life will change much of it all. I close my eyes and live. Close my eyes and live another day. Another day so far from the farms where I grew up. Another day. Another day. Another day so far from that single pair
Yeah, lovely, Holly. And with Dan too. I mean, you can tell that's a different experience in that up to that point, but boy, what a perfect one for you. And again, the songwriting
Yeah.
thing. Around that time was the beginning of the Mustangs. Now,
My involvement with the Mustangs. I mean, the
right,
Mustangs were and
for you,
already
yeah,
active. Yeah.
your involvement in the Mustangs begin. Give me a little bit of the history of them, and then you joining them, and then we've got a wonderful clip from one of the legendary clubs out there.
Yeah. So, as so oftentimes happens when you're a female person, when people need all female bands or all female this or that, you get approached. So that kind of happened with the Mustangs. They were looking for a bass player who sang, and so I wish I could remember. Maybe if any of the if Sherry or Susanna are watching, and remember how that we met. I don't remember, but
right.
So they asked me to do it, and I'll be honest, I was like, country,
Wow.
I'm like, I'm trying to be Soundgarden over here. I don't know I don't know about this stuff, whatever.
Right.
But I had just been having this experience with Dan, and Dan was not country. He was by no means not country.
Right.
But it was more of the singer-songwriter thing that I was like, okay, all right, so what are they doing over there? And then, and they were playing at that point at the Palomino really regularly, and it's like, I feel like my career is one situation after another where I'm like, here is success and pop culture, and I'm like over here sniffing around the side of it,
Right.
Because the Mustangs were playing at the Palomino along with all these great people, with Dwight Yoakam and Mary Chapin Carpenter, and all those people were doing the shows at the Palomino. And so I just thought it would be a cool thing to do. I had avoided country like the plague, because in my mind that's what my mother did.
Wow.
And it's what old people did, and I didn't want to it just didn't. I mean, to a large extent, it still doesn't really speak to me.
Right.
But it's like, I don't. Sometimes I can't help it. When I go to sing a song, it's like, dang, why does that sound like Hank Williams just sang that song?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I can understand that completely.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, for the Holly Montgomery story, it was another way to kind of, do something, and you nailed it. I mean, what I've seen, you really are a wonderful part, and they are a neat group. This is a clip, probably not soon after Holly joined, maybe about a year or less, from the Troubadour, which is a legendary club out there, and a little bit of the Mustangs.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Troubadour stage, the Mustangs.
You keep telling me I got the right stuff. Guess you don't think my heart's been knocked around enough. You keep acting like you haven't won yet. Tell me just how blue do I have to get? You got the winning game, you got the winning smile, you got me right where you want me if you wanna stay a while. One step closer and your game's upset. Tell me just how blue do I have to get? How blue do I have to get? How blue do you want me to be? Caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. How long do you think it'll take before I'm drowning in another heartache? There's another word I haven't been through. One step closer to you, tell me how blue. You told me life is so lucky, and love is just the same. Gotta take a little gamble if you wanna win the game. When I'm walking on the wire, you're gonna pull the net. Tell me just how blue do I have to get? How blue do I have to get? How blue do you want me to be? Caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. How long before you're sure that I'm just a fool? Baby, take it slow. You tell me why you hate to see me cry, but sometimes I think that you lie.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, the country feel is there for sure. knowing you now better than I have in terms of my research and kind of the Holly world, I know that's not necessarily what this is, but it still went on for a while. How long were you with them before, or what was the history? And I know they're playing now because we just showed a clip earlier.
Right. So I think, God, I'll tell you, the things just kind of whirl into each other.
Yeah.
We did, the band did a couple of Europe tours, so
Wow.
where that stuff was really appreciated in Europe, so we did that stuff and played around and stuff. I think I was probably in the band two, maybe 3 years.
Okay.
But during that same time, Susanna, the lead singer and primary writer in the band, got a publishing deal in Nashville, moved to Nashville.
Wow.
She's a fantastic writer.
Okay.
And, Sherry, the lead guitarist in the Mustangs, is a world famous concert photographer. I don't know if you've seen her book. She just had a book published called The Eye of the Music.
I'll look for
in fact, I'm going to get it and show it to you here in just a second.
Fabulous.
She's photographed everybody that, anyway, this book is all the photographs that she took in the 70s and 80s. And so Ronstadt and the Carpenters, and,
amazing.
everybody, all those kind of people. So, Kathy Taylor was the drummer in the band, and she worked a lot around, and, we just kind of went our separate ways. I mean, I got to a certain point where it was like, what happened at the end of the Mustangs, when everybody was leaving and going to do things, and I wasn't playing with Dan anymore, and Big Planet had disbanded at that point. It was like, I realized playing bass with somebody is not the same as having your own band.
Yep.
and being and steering your own destiny. And I realized that, my idea, I guess, needed to evolve from the Dorothy Boy days.
Right.
When I was 14 and we rehearsed 4 or 5 nights a week and everybody was into it and all that, that's just wasn't the way that the world worked. And so I realized I had to do my own thing and put my own band together with my own kind of music that I wanted to do and that I wanted to sing and that I wanted to play. And so at that point, that's all that I did for as long as I lived in LA.
Well, you know what, Holly, and again, this is my history and studying and research of you has been only a couple of months or weeks, but you gain a lot when you're looking at it. And I can see that. I could see you loving playing with people and loving in these bands, but I just love the fact that it always seems to come back to your band, your stuff, the bands you formed here with Andy and company, everything like that. You formed your own band, Holly, right around that time, recorded 3 albums in LA, had a management deal, and that seemed to go till about the late 90s, right? You also had that job at the mechanical and pyrotechnical place.
Yeah, I worked in special effects.
Wow. I'm surprised the shows with, bands and Honey Larks and your own bands aren't like things exploding. I just watched the history of Kiss on A&E the last 2 nights. Fabulous, by the way, if you like documentaries and their history. And speaking of blood and things of spitting. But anyway, 1996. So this goes into the kind of late 90s, early 2000s. You moved to the East Coast. What was the main reason you moved east?
Well, so when I put my band together, gosh, without the details are not interesting. So I'll try to sum up. So I put my band together and we did a bunch of stuff. I had several personnel changes. And we had this deal with Interscope, and we had management, and we were playing all the time at the House of Blues in Hollywood. We were like one of the only local bands that were on the recurring roster, that we played there pretty regularly.
Right.
And, a long story short, I got to a certain point where I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. It was like this thing of, next month, the manager saying, next month, we're going to do such and such, and we'll start recording. And we started working with a producer, Joe Wissert. Anyway, we started working with this producer and spent like a year and a half rehearsing for an album. In the meantime, the guys in the band are like, what's happening here? Are we gonna ever do anything? What's happening here? And I was like freaking out because I was working my butt off in special effects to be able to pay for the rehearsal studio, to be able to pay for all of this stuff that we were doing. And I could see that the guys in the band are like, man, you know, it began to disintegrate because it ended up being about 3 years of waiting to record that album.
Wow.
On the label. And then basically this is a very simple version, but
Okay.
I got called to the house in Beverly Hills of the manager, and I went to his house, hung out, and he sat me down and said, you know, you turned 30. It's just not going to happen. You know, you didn't lose the weight that we wanted you to lose, and you've turned 30, and it's just, you know, it's just not going to happen.
Wow. And that was
Yeah.
that was when you made a decision to.
Pretty almost, you know, that was pretty devastating. Like after several years of being in really close contact, all of a sudden I got ghosted by everything that I got ghosted by the label. I got ghosted by the management, got ghosted. It was like, you know, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to spend whatever money that I have and at least record some of these songs.
Oh.
So we went I rented out Cherokee Studios in Hollywood. Like we got like the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. slot for 8 days.
Oh, overnight.
And while we were still working our day jobs during the day.
Oh.
And so we recorded my album, I'm Only Human. And like towards the end, you know, like trying to keep my voice going and everything, because we were doing the all-night shift at Cherokee Studios just to get some of those songs down that we had worked so hard on the producing and stuff. And, you know, I did a couple of other things. And I mean, I realized at a certain point that, you know, I've had so many friends and people in bands that I've played with go on to tour with famous people and do all of this stuff. And it's like, and I was like, okay, so why didn't anything bigger happen for me? And at a certain point, I realized that I spent most of my career trying to be the artist.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of takes you out of the pool of side people.
Sure.
You know, I don't know. That's what I kind of started to see in myself. It's like, okay. And now that I'm 30 and I'm female, and that makes you too old to do anything, apparently, then I guess I better figure out how to do something real in my life, or I'm going to be a very unhappy old person.
Wow.
And I just happened to one day hear an advertisement for an organization that brought orphaned kids from Eastern Europe, mainly Russia and Kazakhstan, to the United States for summer camp. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to volunteer for that. If I don't do something real, I'm going to go mad.
Oh,
you know?
God. And where was it again? Here
in
the where was the camp in the U.S.?
Well, the camp was wherever the host family sent the kid to camp.
Oh,
you know, so the kids would come over, and KidSave was the organization who paired kids with families. You know, families went through a vetting process. You had to get a home study and do all of that stuff. And you hosted a child for the summer and sent them to camp and just gave them a chance to like live in a family situation. That's all that the kid was promised. The kids were not brought here saying, we're going to find you a family, although of course that's what they hoped for. But the responsibility of the host family was to be that child's advocate.
Wow. Until
the child got adopted. So I hosted a couple of kids doing that until I saw a picture of one little boy that was it.
That was Ari?
Mm-hmm.
This is incredible. I had no idea going in until I read the research that this happened. And then Ari comes in at 9, and then 2 years later, from the same orphanage, it's Zarina and Jesse, and they're 13 and 15.
Right.
That's not a usual adoption age.
No.
And so how did this work for you? And it seemed.
Oh, yeah. Well,
teenagers.
Who didn't, you know, it's more than just teenagers, really. I bet. much to my mother's lifelong chagrin, I've not been afraid of things that I really should have been afraid of in my life. And when I went into older child adoption, especially international adoption, I mean, they didn't speak a word of English, so especially when you do that, I was like, man, I've been in the bowels of the LA music industry. How hard could this be?
Right. Oh my gosh.
Guess what? It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard.
I bet.
It was really hard. I mean, these kids didn't know anything. They didn't know how to tell time. They didn't know how to add and subtract. They didn't know that there was ever a Hitler or a World War, or that there were Romans, or that, or they didn't know anything about anything. They didn't know how a washing machine worked. They didn't know anything. Like it was incredible. Like I remember the moment that I was realizing that, oh, okay, I have teenagers who I have to teach how to brush their teeth properly.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay. And I didn't know that they were in their own language and in their own countries were grades and grades behind.
Wow.
Because of their interrupted family situations, so it was really, really hard. It was the greatest thing I ever did. I'll tell you, if I hadn't done it, I would not be here today. I would be so miserable had I not done that. Because it was my wacky way of putting a family together, and it really worked for me.
Oh God, it seemed like perfect timing almost too.
Yeah, it was great. And at that point it was just like, I realized at one point that, and I still think this way, and I ponder this actually pretty much daily. I don't really have the personality for the music business. I'm not a suck up. I'm not a brown noser. I'm not ruthless about it in that way, in a way that I've known people who became successful had to be. And I'm just not. I wish I could. I've wished so many times over the years that I could be more that way. But I remember driving out of LA, leaving LA when I was moving away and going, I'm okay with this because I just can't be that kind of person. Right. And I'll never fit into that kind of world. I won't fit in that way. And I would be more unhappy trying to fit in that way than I would just to go and do this. At that point, I only knew about Ari. I didn't know Rena and Jesse yet. But I have to go do something real or I'm going to go mad. So I left LA and moved east and adopted older kids from Kazakhstan.
Oh my God. I am stunned how amazing you are. Kudos to you. I mean, how difficult it may have been.
Ignorance and naivete,
it's also things called compassion and love and all that stuff too, Holly. That's what I'm seeing. 20 years later, they're like 30 and 35. How are you still
not
in touch?
She would have a heart attack if she heard you say.
Still,
but yeah, they're hitting their 30s at this point. Yeah.
Oh God, that's spectacular. Who knew?
Yeah, it's freaked me out. I gotta tell you.
I bet. How did you begin your DC area connection then?
Well, I moved east to DC because when I was in LA, this incredible human being, this incredible woman, Rainey Foster, was a booking agent there. And I met her first. She booked me and Dan Byrne a lot. So I met her through that association. And then she booked my band a lot at a bunch of places. And so we became really best friends and still are. Oh. And her family lived in the DC area, and she got out kind of for the same reasons I did. It's like you have to ask yourself at a certain point, do I want to grow old here or not?
Right.
She decided before I did that she did not want to grow old in LA, and she moved back east. And so a few years later, not having anywhere else really to go, I came here.
Wow.
She was the only person I knew when I came here. And I had not intended, I was so burned out at that point. I was like, I need a little space.
Right.
I did not mean to take as long a space as I did.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. It seems like it took a little while for you to take a deep breath. You got your 3 adopted teenagers almost. I mean, Ari became a teenager soon after. But you began gigging, various projects. You did Uncanny Valley, and you had people like, I'm a longtime Lynyrd Skynyrd fan. I saw them 3 months before the plane crash. And
wow.
yeah, and then the new band was kind of a little bit of a smattering, and at least, you know, a few of the guys were in it, but Randall was a huge part of it, Randall Hall. And then Aynsley Dunbar, who, I mean, we could go on for hours about Aynsley. What an incredible thing. And also,
that was an incredible experience. Yeah.
the beginning of your relationship with the amazing Andy Hamburger. Speaking of somebody whose works keep popping up everywhere I've been the last year doing the show.
He's a machine.
He is. And Paul Bell, you know, you guys, seems like, I mean, you found people that you would be with for the rest of your life, practically, right? At that moment. That's 10, 11 years ago, 12.
Yeah. I mean, Uncanny Valley came about because my friend Rainey has a lifelong friend, musician, producer type guy, Tom Nichols.
Right.
And so Tom Nichols, Falls Church guy around here. And so Tom hooked me up at Q Studios.
Okay.
And so I went to Q with the idea of, I remastered a bunch of my old stuff from LA.
Oh, great.
And like trying to see, okay, what can I have that sounds good for moving forward? And I started recording a song that my band had done in LA, but I'd never had gotten a good recording of. So like one of those things, when I write a song and I have an idea for how it's supposed to sound, it bugs the crap out of me, like until I get it recorded.
Right.
So this is like a lot of time later, I was like, I didn't get a song. It's like scratching this, and that's the song "As Long as I Live" off of Uncanny Valley.
Right.
So I went into Q and I was like, I don't have a band. Can you recommend anybody for these sessions? And Ken Schubert was the engineer, and Ken said, yeah, you got to get Andy Hamburger and Paul Bell.
Oh man, way to go. Suggestion of the century. Nice thing. We're going to jump to one of my favorite places in the world. Gone there many times, sung it on the stage at Jam and Java. Love the Brindleys and all those guys. Gonna go to your release party 10 years ago for a little bit of a taste of that part of Holly Montgomery. She's got Tony Grasso, Tim Dyer, Andy Hamburger, and Peter Fox for a little Jungle Girl.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's the Taste of Holly Montgomery's Uncanny Valley album. I love that, and it's a Jammin' Java, which again has come up probably every show. It's just such an institution and is getting slowly back to where it
Yeah.
needs to be. So around 2011, you began really forming the basis of what would become the Holly Montgomery Band, and that's with Andy and company, and began recording around that time, 2014, Leaving Eden.
Yeah. So yeah, around 2013 and 14, I started recording it, although I didn't release it for a while after that.
Right,
For a lot of various reasons.
right.
It was like towards right, but in those in between years, I really didn't have a steady guitarist. I kind of bounced around from different guitarists.
Okay.
And you know, I had loved the guitarist that I played with in LA so much. It was really hard for me to, you know, I was really looking for that level of inventiveness and all of this that I kept looking for. I didn't want to be pegged in any certain kind of style, you know.
Right.
That's where I was thinking at the time anyway. And so right, like the last song on the Leaving Eden album is Buddy played on, and that was when I first met Buddy.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, as soon as me and Buddy and Andy started playing together, the band started to take on a character of its own. And so for a while there, the Leaving Eden album, even though I had finished it and it was mastered, I didn't release it for the longest time. And finally, Tom Nichols came in and just released the album. It's good. But to me, it still felt, and it still feels a little bit too piecemeal because I was still like looking for the right combo of people.
Okay.
Even though I'm very proud of the album, don't get me wrong.
Right.
You know, it's not that. It's just for me and my thought processes going into it was still like not settled. And so,
Right.
you know, at that point in the fall of 2014, Buddy played his first gigs with us, and you know, he hasn't been able to get rid of me ever since.
Oh God. Well, yeah. And again,
And so, you know, over the next like 2 years, and even at that point, I'm still thinking, all right, I'm going to work. I'm going to play music for a living, so I don't have to get another godforsaken day job.
right.
And so it's like, okay, everybody's doing this to make money and be in a cover band, but I've always been way too idealistic for my own good. And I started to, at least in my mind, for my part of the band, I started to really hear that, wow, this thing takes on a life of its own,
Right.
you know? And so I was like, even though I was like, I'm not going to record another album because it's incredibly expensive and who's going to listen to it and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I'm going to record a thing or two. And I recorded a couple of things that it just, to me, it was just a transcendent sound for me. It was really, and so I just kind of kept pushing, you know, to
Right.
get the band recorded, because there's just nothing like recording with people that you've played hundreds and probably thousands of gigs with at this point, you know.
Right.
I mean, having that kind of thing meshed together is just, you know, to me, really special. And I was determined to get it down. And about at the point at which I was ready to do that and recorded a few things, that's when I released Leaving Eden,
Mm-hmm.
and finally in 2016, and got on that first round ballot of the Grammy Awards for that album. And then I, you know, for what that's worth. But
Wow.
so then I was like, you know what? You know, there's no way in hell anything else is gonna, you know, that I'll get to the next level with it, but I'm going to LA for the Grammys.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I called up Sherry from the Mustangs and said, I'm going to come to LA for the Grammys. And she was like, really? Well, Susanna is going to be in town and we should get together and do a Mustangs. And I was like my mind, Mustangs, you know, what?
Oh my God.
Mustangs broke up 20 years ago. And I was like, well, you know, I would love to see everybody, but I have a bunch of things going on and I can't really do much. That ended up being, you know, mostly a week of doing only things with the Mustangs.
Oh.
So we got together and Sherry asked Suzanne, you know, you want to be the drummer in the band, because Kathy Taylor, who was the drummer in the band, moved east to Boston, and then Aubrey Richmond, who she was neighbors with, who played with Shooter Jennings, she was like, maybe Aubrey will be in the band. And so we got together that day and recorded one of Susanna's songs and made a video. It's the T-shirt from California.
Oh,
You said you wanted to go out west, but you said nothing about someone else. You just wanted to reinvent yourself, far away from these Midwest checkerboard fields. You say the ocean shines like a diamond, there's sunlight everywhere, but I know what keeps you there. It's the sea in her eyes, the sun in her hair. I got a t-shirt from California, it says Sunset Boulevard. I got a note that you wrote on the back of an old postcard, but she's got your heart. She's got your heart. You talk and talk about the view from the canyon or the drive up to Malibu. You never talk about me and you. Guess you got a new life, got a new attitude. I got a t-shirt from California, it says Sunset Boulevard. I got a note that you wrote on the back of an old postcard, but she's got your heart. She's got your heart.
I mean, long story short, Sherry had been asked to photograph, because she's a world famous photographer. She had been asked to photograph Fanny's reunion with Blue Lawn Records.
oh my
You know,
God.
Fanny had reformed.
Yeah.
And so she went to photograph that and pitched the Mustangs to Blue Lawn, and they signed the band.
Oh. yet another unexpected moment.
You know, I was like, you know, and I know it's a pain in the butt for the band. I live on the East Coast, so I'm not moving back to LA. I don't want to live in LA. It's
Right.
no place to live if you're poor.
Right.
Um,
And
and so, you know, so that obviously I began going back and forth to LA at that point, and so it made the album that I just finished recording take a long time.
Right.
Because my focus is really divided.
right.
So it was another great thing about COVID. You know, I wasn't doing anything, and we got to finish the album, and we did it exactly the way we wanted to do it.
Oh, that's incredible. You know, Holly, the Mustangs, who knew that would resurge right kind of around that time, before I guess you began the bi-coastal world pre-pandemic. You did a couple of singles, and I love them. They just shine to me. And one of them was Glenn Campbell Motivated. And Jim Ebert produced, our buddy, the amazing Cancer Can Rock producer, amazing man. Tell me a little bit about Song of My Life.
Yeah, you know, Glenn Campbell is one of those guys that really transcended genre and everything. To me, he was such an incredible player,
Totally.
and you know, and a humble guy, just a regular guy. And I just remember hearing him say one time that I don't play country music, but I am a country boy who plays
Oh.
music.
God.
And I it was something like that. And I was like, you know, that's the way it ought to be. And that's why he was able to get away with crossing genres. You know, one of the last projects he did a Green Day cover.
Yes, he did. It was Tommy My Life, right?
It was great. I mean,
riddance.
I thought he did such honor to that song.
I do
but
too.
Anyway, when I heard that he had Alzheimer's, and for such a mind and such a talent and such a player, you know, to have his awareness taken from him. And from what I understand, he could still play guitar to the end, but
He could. You know, Holly, I had Gary Olsey and Michael Jaworek from the Birchmere on one of my first shows, and I know them both for many years. And one of the things we talked about was Glenn. And one of his final gigs, I think the second to last gig he ever played, was at the Birchmere. and they didn't know that he was as sick as he was, but he was still able to play. We showed a clip of Gentle on My Mind, which is like makes you cry. And the family, his family was so supportive
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. I had Jimmy Webb. I interviewed Jimmy Webb too. Speaking of somebody who worked with Glenn,
Right.
but you're right. The motivation that he,
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
gave you.
So I mean, when I heard that and that he recorded this one final song for his family, you know, you're not gonna miss me, right?
Yes.
Or I'm not gonna miss
I'm not
you.
going to miss you, right?
Sorry, I'm not gonna miss you. It freaked me out. I'll be straight up honest with you. It freaked me out. When that, you know, to me, songwriting is capturing an emotion, right? And trying to articulate what's happening in that emotion in the moment. Song of My Life was written in a full-on sweating, heart-beating panic.
Right.
100%. I wrote it in a panic.
Wow.
You know, because I have my imagination doesn't, you know, I have a pretty vivid imagination, and I was just imagining what it would be like to have those in and out glimpses of awareness of I'm losing my mind.
Oh.
I don't remember who it, I don't, you know, and it just freaked me out. So it was like, Song of My Life was me saying to the universe, please, you know, do anything, but let me, I can be old and frail. I'll deal with that, but don't take my wits from me. I want my wits. If you take my wits from me, I'll jump off a cliff. I won't be able to do that.
Oh, I had no idea. Well, that's, it adds to the beauty of this song to me. I mean, the intensity of it. I love it. Jim Ebert again produced it. It's a beautiful song from about 3 or 4 years ago, but I could not do this show with Holly without showing.
Yeah, that was the first bit of songwriting for the next album. So yeah, all right.
Is Song of My Life going to be on Sorry for Nothing?
Right. Well, that was what I was going to say next. So what
Go
we
for it.
ended up doing is for this album, we've been working a lot with Dave Darling, who's a producer in LA.
Wow.
And Dave has really like mentored me through this album, and he mixed the album, and he really urged me to, like, because I'm an independent artist, there's good and bad to it. When you're an independent, I can do whatever I want to on the record. You know, if you listen to Leaving Eden, it's all over the place, you know, and I like, well, I'm an independent artist, so I can do what I want, right? Dave was like, that's dumb. Stop doing that. You know, make an album that is straightforward and identifiable and that everything fits together. So I decided to do that, which the good thing is that it really is a very, I mean, I consider it my magnum opus. You know, it's a very streamlined album in terms of, you know, every song sounds like the same band and all of that kind of thing. It is, though, it's uncharacteristically a narrow focus for me because it doesn't have like the harder rock style that I like on it. It doesn't have that part of what I do and what I really love to do on it. But that's okay because the focus that's on it, I wrote those songs and this is what we're doing. So all of that to say that at a certain point in our musical journey with the band, I realized, you know, Buddy ends up playing things his way and making things sound a certain way. And I had been asking Buddy, why don't you produce our stuff? And at first he wouldn't do it. He was like, well, I don't really know if I did that or not. And then, so finally what happened was when I started doing the next group of songs after we recorded Song of My Life, I kind of put my foot down. I was like, Buddy, I'll pay you. Produce, do it.
Wow.
So Buddy, and what was great is like, even though working with Dave Darling, who's got like all these accolades, Dave was happy with Buddy's producing. He was like, keep what you're doing, do that, and just keep doing that. So Buddy produced the album, but what that meant was that we had to re-record Song of My Life because the way that we had recorded it before didn't fit that. Anyway, so I'm going to have I have two excellent versions of Song of My Life.
Well, from the Sorry for Nothing songwriting era of Holly Montgomery, and you know the history now, so it'll mean even more to you. This is Song of My Life.
but my skin is as thin as it was when I was 10. And I cried when the boys' club wouldn't let me in. When all of the games of my life had been played, well, I find my worst enemy was always me. And it looks like the golden bird has flown, and I'm gonna fly away home. And if anybody's listening, you're free to play along. But I'm gonna sing the song of my life on my own. I'm singing the song of my life. I tell myself I'm doing it for the children. Oh, what I wouldn't do for them. I tell myself that the world needs me too. Oh, what I wouldn't give to believe that's true. When all of the days of my life have been tamed, will I find a flood of memory brings glory or shame? And it looks like the golden bird has flown, and I'm gonna fly away home. And if anybody's listening, you're free to play along. But I'm gonna sing the song of my life on my own. I'm singing the song of my life.
Here is a wonderful coming to the close of Holly Montgomery. She's got her pals Jenny and Carly on either side in the church or wherever it
Girl
is.
power.
Yep.
Mhm.
And here's a little If I Were Your Guitar.
Hi, Pastor Wally. Thank you so much for coming with your friends. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, welcome to Sunday Worship here at Mount Olivet. What's your name?
Holly.
Holly. It's a beautiful name. That's actually feminine. A beautiful bush. Really nice and pruned and just lovely. I hope you'll enjoy the Sunday service. I look forward to joining you in worship today. You're a fresh drink of water. You go on in and have a seat now. See if anybody else is coming. All right.
If I were your guitar, I'd want you to overplay me. I want your hand wrapped around my neck and feel your body swaying against me. I'd like it if you played too loud and hard and made every string bend and break. And if I were your guitar, what beautiful music we made. I know, you know, we know, they know. Oh, no, no. I think too much, you've been made of wood. I want too much, all the things I shouldn't. And I see too much to believe the disguise. And I love too much just to close my eyes. I think too much.
Whew, there you go. And you got to be kidding.
Ted Garver's
That
so
is a
great.
goof, and the girls on either side, pre-Honey Larks even, but you guys go back to Bach to Rock, right? So you're pals. But what we'd like to kind of close everything with is a little bit of a sound from Sorry for Nothing, the album that hopefully soon to be released album from Holly. This is a song that you just described kind of exactly what this is about. It's nature basically saying,
Yeah, it's Mother Nature telling humanity, hey,
right.
You know, I've given you all these breaks and you've really screwed up, so I'm gonna have to punish you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. As we said, it's the margarine commercial. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature. But
Oh
and
yeah.
anyway, this is a little Holly Montgomery, and I got damage.
Oh my love, gone are the days of epiphanies. Now it's done, it's gone on way too long, and it's gone, it's gone. Anyone listening to my litany had enough. I know I come on way too strong, but I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I gotta get it out of my system. I'm a savage and I got baggage. Now I gotta find a new rhythm. Oh, I blame it on my damage, 'cause I got damage. I got damage. I got damage. I got damage.
Well, it sounds like you're gonna have a beautiful piece coming, and I can't wait to hear how that goes when it all comes down, Holly. I'm so happy that I don't know. It just seems like you're going to be churning out of this thing. I'm sure the live gigs will be flying along if they're not already. I'm sure they are. And how are you feeling right now for the next stage of Holly Montgomery?
You know, I feel like the times they are a changing. What they're going to change into, I don't know.
Right.
But you know, I feel so strongly about this record that we did.
Great.
I really am hoping. I'm really hoping that people will listen. You know, I'm long past caring if 1 million people listen.
Right.
If I can get 100 people to listen and be moved by it or enjoy it,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I'll be happy. I won't be satisfied. I might not be satisfied, but I'll be happy. You know, it's like I just want to get it out there, and I want to do honor to all the hard work that the band has done over the years, slogging through our club dates and our, you know.
Well, again, you let me know when it comes down, because I'm going to tell my audience about it. That's growing by the week, just so I can, you know, again, I think with the songs I've heard from it, you're going to move more than 100 people. You moved one on these songs that I've heard, but you'll move a lot. Holly, again, thanks so much for taking the time to be on this with me.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
I'm glad, and I think we'll have a great journey once this is all put together. But thanks so much again, and keep in close touch with me, will you?
I sure will, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Talk soon. You know, another memorable, moving, fabulous ride on Living on Music. Thank you, Holly. That was great. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and good luck with everything as we go forward. I'm sure we'll keep in close touch, because that's what I want to do with everybody that's been on the show, at least to know what they're doing and how I can help push all of this amazing music that comes out of this area and elsewhere. So thanks, Holly, and we'll see you soon, I hope. Coming up this Monday, a week from tonight, is Juliana McDowell, who is yet again another stellar DC-based musician, but is well known everywhere from Florida to Nashville and beyond. I mean, all over the place. And we can't wait to have a wonderful conversation with Juliana next Monday on the 26th. Scott Kurt, my buddy, and the first guest ever on Living on Music, April 13th, 2020. We have Scott coming on to kind of update me on what he's been doing. And again, speaking of what people have been doing to get out of this, and now we're just churning forward. He's got like 4 gigs, 5, 6 gigs a week practically. He's recording, writing, talk to Scott and also Joe Chaviro, who is my fabulous guest from a few months ago, who was buddies with Trini Lopez in the last few years of Trini's life. And we'll be doing a tribute to Trini Lopez in August, on August 11th in the Rockstar Bar in Las Vegas. And we'll talk about that because that is going to be something very special that Joe, I'm sure, has near and dear to his heart. And on August 2nd, her second appearance on Living on Music. And I only giggle because the first one was as we were trying to get the virtual world settled, trying to get things down. And we had Julia at this wonderful little porch of her friends because her connectivity was sketchy and ours was trying to get hers and all this. So she went to a friend's house, but during the show, my camera dropped out. It just went south. We had no idea where it went. So it was Julia on camera the entire show by herself with me like a radio interview talking to her just of my voice. And she handled it beautifully and she played wonderful music. She's just fabulous musician and a sweetheart of a lady. And we've got Julia back. And I guarantee, unless virtual unexpected nature screws us, we will have Julia on with me on August 2nd. So I can't wait for that. One more quick plug for Wednesday night's music-related show with Alexandria Masia. We'll talk to the founders of Yellow Door Concert Series, Vaughn and Robin Ambrose, who do largely jazz concerts at Alexandria Free Methodist Church, and how they came about with that idea and when you can go see some shows. Live shows. Stay tuned to the Zebra on Facebook. So go to the page, sign up, like us. You'll get all the information about Zebra and everything. And I think you'll be better for it. You can go to the ZTV page as well, and you'll get pinged. And you can find our invites all the time and past videos, archives, and things like that. And also the July 2021 edition of the Zebra newspaper is out there. It is the 40 under 40 plus 2. And that is an amazing look at some of the incredible talent in this area and the movers and the shakers and what they're doing to better the region as well as find their own place and businesses and things like that. My buddy Kelly Gunderman is one of them from VIP Alexandria. So way to go, Kelly. That is the Zebra at heart. And you can go to thezebra.org also and subscribe to the Zebra newspaper. Go down to the bottom. See that little button, subscribe, click. Very nominal fee. You'll get a wonderful paper delivered to your door every month. And that is a great thing. Living on Music is a production of Zebra Press. My Living on Music associate producer and editor is the wonderful Lehian graduate, Laney Delaney. Our EP at ZTV is Susan Mulligan Fleischman. And the publisher of the Zebra Press is the wonderful Mary Wadland. Well, everybody, don't forget next Monday at 7 o'clock. Welcome with me, Juliana McDowell. You will not forget our journey with her, and hopefully we'll hear some couple of live music tunes as well. But Juliana joins me next Monday on Living on Music. Until then, remember what you can do. Doesn't cost anything, doesn't take anything. It's not a heavy lift. It just opens up your heart and soul and other people's is to be the good news in someone's life. Take care, everybody. Ciao.